Well, I'm Marky Dragon, also known as Marcus Eikenberry in real life, and today I'm at Hidden Path Entertainment. It is entertainment, right?
Absolutely.
And this is Jeff Pobst.
Hi.
Jeff here is one of the main men at the game studio here.
Indeed.
Now, you're working on a new game, and it's Defense Grid 2.
Yeah, so what we want to do is we made an original game called Defense Grid. We wanted to create a new kind of tower defense experience that was more premium, that was more balanced, that had a lot of real polish to it, and really took advantage of a lot of things we had learned making large strategy games over the past several years. And we wanted it to be really special, and it took a lot of time. We released it in 2008, and here we are in 2012, and it's one of the most popular tower defense games ever made. It's sold, I think, 750,000 units or some crazy big number. So there's a lot of people out there who love Defense Grid, but it was a very expensive game to make. Games can be a lot more expensive than people think, especially when you get really high talented people to use them. They like to be paid.
Of course.
It's a shocking thing, but and we like paying them, actually, because it creates a really great group of people to work together. And in doing so, we sold the game fairly inexpensively. And so while the game has done well, it actually didn't bring in as much money as kind of we were hoping. And so we thought, you know what, if we really want to make the sequel and people out there love the game as much as they've been telling us, let's do a Kickstarter and see if we can't raise some of the gap that we don't have. Because we have some of the money for it, but we don't have all of it. And so that's why we started the Kickstarter.
So I found out about this by looking at Kickstarter, and you guys popped up.
Yes.
And I'm like, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Let's go check them out.
And we were thrilled that you asked to.
So, I've played a little bit of Defense Grid, and I can see how people might be fanatical about it. Like, fans might be really hardcore about it.
When we can look at Steam stats, you can look at how many people have played on Steam, how long they've played it for, what the average is, which often gets weighted towards the people who play lots of hours, what the max is. And there are some people with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours in the game. And I think our median, an equal number above and equal number below, is something like 22 hours of gameplay, which for a downloadable game is outrageously high. Normally that's much lower, like 6 or 8 hours or something like that.
And I found out a way to get the game for free.
Yes, you did.
So you know what I did?
Well,
is I went and pledged on Kickstarter, and so then you guys sent me a code for the original Defense Grid, and I've been playing.
I'm so glad.
So this is the first time I've ever done a Kickstarter where I've gotten something right away.
Well, we saw that, right? We looked at a lot of Kickstarters, and we saw that there was no instant gratification. And we also know, which a lot of people have reminded us about, that just because you pledge, like, you could change your pledge, you could drop your pledge.
This is true.
You could go away. But we said, you know what, we don't care. We want people to be a part of this party that we're trying to have throughout the Kickstarter. We want people to be able to join in, play the game if they've never played it before. We're updating the game every week. We're doing contests every week. We're trying to have a really exciting, fun time while we're doing the Kickstarter. And we thought giving out codes right when people pledge was worth it to us, even if we lose some codes in the process.
I find it to be very unique, and it's very trusting on your part. But I think it's a good strategy, because any of you who have not played this game yet, I mean, seriously, I did the $30 option.
Okay.
Because I wanted the expansions as well.
Right.
And so I'm already in plan. And
the Kickstarter hasn't closed yet.
Right, and so I'm getting 2 games.
Yes, you're getting the current game right now that exists and all the DLC, and then you've pledged for the future content that we're going to make, which is a Defense Grid expansion that kind of bridges the story between the current game and the new game, and then the new game when we make it. If the Kickstarter pays for the entire new game, we know exactly when that's going to be. But if it doesn't, we still plan on making it, and it's just going to be, we can't be as definitive as when it's going to be done. But at that point in time, then we'll give you DG2 as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I am so looking forward to this. You know, and when did the original one come out?
It was originally released in December of 2008.
Because I was playing it this morning before coming over here, and I found it very engaging.
Oh, I'm glad.
I actually said to myself, I wish the interview time was a little bit later because I wanted to play a little bit more.
That's one of the things that's really been fun. Whenever you have a good game, and this is the kind of feedback we were getting from fans, was that I'm just going to play another hour, and then you look up at the clock and 4 hours have gone by. And whenever you can have that experience where you get in the zone and you're focused, and you know, one of the key things, a lot of the designs for Defense Grid were about really making the experience as enjoyable as possible. I'm placing my towers, I'm balancing my resources, I make a mistake, oh, I don't want to start the level over again, but I can just hit backspace, go back 3 minutes, and then adjust what I was doing.
I did that once already, yeah.
And it's a really great feature, and we think it's really, you know, very key to enjoying the game experience and creating the thing you want, because it turns out, because we balanced the levels so well, and that there's resources you get, and you know, different kinds of towers, and as you go through the game you get more tower types. There are millions and millions of ways to solve a level, and at first, you know, going backspace, oh, you know, so you might feel like, oh, well, now I'm going to be able to be a little better than I should have been. But it turns out when you play it that level a second time or a third time, that you actually see yourself get dramatically better. You intuit, oh, this is the right place for that tower. Oh, this is the right kind of tower to use against these enemies. And as you gain more experience, you see your scores go up dramatically. And it's very hard, actually, as we develop the game, to look back and go, now, why was this level hard again? Because it becomes so much easier. And so we have to really work hard to try and make it so that the game can be balanced, and when we make new levels, you know, make it so that everyone can play them.
Now, you've got, on the Kickstarter, you've got several different levels of funding.
Right.
And so the first one was at, I think, $250,000.
That's correct.
And basically that is getting the main portion of the game done. Is that correct?
It's not quite correct. So the idea being that when we make a new expansion, it literally does cost us somewhere between $220,000, I think, was the cheapest expansion we did, to $300,000.
Wow!
So those are the budgets that we've had for the past expansions. And what we wanted to do with the next expansion, Defense Grid Containment, is introduce the story arc that takes you from the original Defense Grid story to the Defense Grid 2 story, and also make progress on our engine. So at $250,000, we released Defense Grid Containment as an expansion. And we make progress on our engine, our brand new engine for Defense Grid.
Okay.
At $500,000, then we are able to finish our engine, and one of the tests we were planning for the engine is bring the previous content and put it on the new engine, and also release some multiplayer levels. The first time we've ever done multiplayer, but the new engine has multiplayer support. And then if we reach $750,000, then we have Mac, Linux, a level editor so people can make their own levels, and then at $1 million we have enough money for all of Defense Grid 2. We're halfway through, we're making good progress. Some of those levels look like they're kind of out of reach, but what we plan on doing is, regardless, we'll deliver exactly what we said we would based on the level that the Kickstarter folks bring in, and then we'll keep working towards Defense Grid 2. And maybe we won't make, if the Kickstarter, say, for example, funds $500,000, well, then we would do containment, we would do the new engine with multiplayer. We might wait until Defense Grid 2 before we would do Linux, Mac, and the level editor, but those would all still be part of the DG2 plan.
And now, having played this a bit, what is your vision of multiplayer?
Oh, multiplayer is a lot of fun, and we actually even had some multiplayer designed for the original game, but the price of the game, the development cost, was getting so large that we had to cut it.
I know that it adds a lot.
It does.
To bring in more than one person.
Well, it's just, there's so many pieces, there's so many edge cases, there's so many connections, there's matchmaking, there's the interaction, there's the syncing of the two games so that they're accurate. There's all sorts of pieces that make multiplayer, you know, costs more because you have to put a lot more time in to make it happen. But from a player's point of view, we have one of the most requested features is just pure co-op, where everyone both people share resources and cores and towers, and it doesn't matter, but you have, you know, in the two controllers or a mouse and keyboard and a controller, and they're both working together. I often call this the father-son mode. And this has been
like multiple avenues coming in towards one core.
Well, it could be two people playing the exact same level at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
And so a lot of people have asked for that. So that's just a very basic, simple mode. But then a lot of people who are friends, who are more involved game players, they want to be able to both play. We've seen some of those levels where there's 2 cores and there's 2 entrances, and they'd be playing on the same time, but you can kind of compare how did I do versus how did my friend do. And so you get example. And then we have even some versus modes where you might be playing on a level and you might destroy an alien, and every alien you destroy shows up harder on my side, and every alien I destroy shows up harder on your side, and it keeps escalating until one of us is overcome.
Yeah.
And there's many other modes, even one mode where you might bid on which squares you're going to build on, which squares I'm going to build on before we begin, and then now we can go forward and we can only build on our own squares that we kind of...
Sounds like teamwork is needed, otherwise that one will be a disaster.
Well, it turns out not necessarily, because there's been a lot of, in the history of tower defense, there's been a lot of modes where people, kind of take the front, and then someone takes the middle, and someone takes the back, and aliens get handed off, and you of course want to be the one to kill them where your mode is. So there's all sorts of different kinds of strategies that emerge from different rule sets. And that's one of the things that's really fun about making strategy games.
What now, for someone who has not played Defense Grid or has not played a game like this, what kind of games could you relate this to?
Well, I think it's... I often explain it to people saying, okay, imagine a strategy game where both sides have an army, except I'm not going to have an army. That's too complicated. I'm just going to have a base, and it's going to have some defenses. And as the enemies come, I have some money to spend to build my defenses, and as I do better, I get more money to spend. And so what I'm really doing is optimizing defenses to prevent the oncoming enemy. In that way, it's like a strategy game. It's also kind of like a puzzle game, because I have a fixed amount of resources. I have a fixed amount of enemies coming. It's always the same. So once I kind of feel like, okay, that was a good solution, I can go back, and for the same situation, I can try to come up with a better solution. And I can replay it the way you might want to solve a puzzle multiple different ways, and it gives you a score based on, how efficient were you with your resources? How many towers did you build? Did you build fewer and still stop them, or did you build more? Did you upgrade the towers? Did you sell towers? All these things are taken into account. And you can, one of the first, I don't think this is even an official mode, but when we first started playing Defense Grid here in the office, one guy sent an email out saying, I solved this level with just 10 towers. And we're like, oh, you can't do that. That's not possible. We didn't think you could. And so everyone in the whole office is trying it, and then someone yells, 9! And all of a sudden we have 9 towers, and then someone says, no, 7! We're like, no, 7's not possible. And then this, and you end up kind of creating your own modes. We get emails from fans saying, I make it so that no alien can even touch my cores. We're like, ooh, that'd be hard. And so there's all these ways to play it. It's a system, and that system, cares about the total number of aliens coming in, the total amount of resources you have to build, and how fast you can build them, and it becomes a lot of fun.
Yeah. Speaking of unexpected ways of playing things, I go back to like Command and Conquer, and I used to build my defenses out to the enemy base.
Sure.
And so I would just keep pushing forward all the way into their base if I could, and just take them out with my defenses. I didn't have to have any offense.
That's a cool strategy, and it's totally legit. One of the things that's really fun about Defense Grid is that if you've played a lot of tower defense games before, often it's about the enemies just making it through the back of your base. And we felt, Mark Toronto, our design director, really focused on having a much more interesting emotional curve. So often there is a core housing that holds these cores, and these are things that the aliens can come in and steal and take away.
Right.
And so an alien comes in, and you're trying to prevent them from getting the cores, and then they pick one up. And it feels like the world's coming to an end, but there's still something you can do, because they have to go back either to the exit or back to where they came in, and you can build more towers, and you can stop them and actually kill them, and then what happens is that core drops, and it starts floating back.
Right.
And once it starts floating back, you've kind of protected it. You can protect against other aliens, but other aliens can come and pick it up.
I had that happen.
And now you kill them, and then another alien picks it up, and we call that the handoff. And the thing that's really interesting about the handoff is that moves where the hot spot is in the level to different places. You can't always just build in the front or just build in the back.
Correct.
Because these cores, sometimes as the aliens are tougher, move around through the level.
You have to think about both directions.
Pretty much, and it makes it even more fun. But then also this ability that once something starts to go wrong, you can do something about it. That also makes the game feel really different compared to other tower defense games.
So tell me the thoughts behind some of the different weapons, some of the different towers, because just from what I've played so far, so we've got like the machine gunner type thing, and then we've got lasers,
the flamethrower, Inferno,
and then the device to trans.
The Tesla Tower or the Temporal Tower?
Temporal Tower.
The Temporal Tower. So the Temporal Tower is about slowing down enemies. So often you can look at them as what kind of damage model they do. A gun is nice all around. It does kind of a consistent damage as long as it can hold it on target. Whereas like a cannon can do a massive amount of damage, but only so often. So that's pretty good, and it also has different ranges. So you often look at a tower on its range, on whether it is a damage per second or an area of effect, and then you start making combinations. Like a flame tower, which does damage to an area. That's pretty good, except aliens move through it pretty fast. Well, if you can put a temporal tower next to an inferno tower, all of a sudden you're slowing them down while they're there in the area of effect. Yeah, and that becomes really powerful. Yeah. Lasers are really interesting because they can do a good amount of DPS, but then after the aliens long past the tower, they continue to burn for a little while. And so you're able, if you space out the laser towers across your level, they can be really effective as well at damaging aliens. And so, yeah, there's all sorts. There's meteor towers, there's command towers, which you'll find later in your progress, which they'll be stealth aliens that are invisible. And long-range towers can't see them, only the short-range towers can. But if you put a command tower near there, then the long-range towers can see them because the command tower is telling them where they're at. And then you also get a bonus for the amount of resources collected near a command tower. So there's lots of combinations between towers and different groups to use them. The Teslas are really good against shielded aliens. They charge up and then they do damage, normal damage against the alien, but more damage to shields. There's lots of different pluses and minuses both to the towers and to the corresponding aliens to give you lots of interesting strategies.
Yeah, you got to figure all this out based on the level you're given.
Yeah. And we try and teach you about what the towers are good at and what the aliens do to you as you progress through the game.
I have been doing the tutorial and I have found that helpful. So, I mean, I could have figured it all out, but I'm progressing faster because of that.
One of the things that's really fun about Defense Grid is there isn't a particular tutorial. We just have pop-up information as you go through in the first few levels, and then after you've seen it all, we don't pop up stuff anymore.
Yeah. So, now, to get in on this, what do people need to do?
Well, they go to the redirect is Kickstarter.hiddenpath.com.
Okay.
And it'll redirect you to the right Kickstarter page.
And I'm going to put a link in the description too. So
excellent. Thank you very much. And what that does is kind of give you an overview of what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish with Defense Grid 2 eventually, and the content in between. And then you can become a backer. And we have the ability to become a backer for as low as $15. We also had a partnership. We called up the folks at AMD who make video cards and at Razer, and they said, hey, we really like Defense Grid, we're fans, what can we do to help? And we said, well, help us get out the word, and we're going to do some contests, and we're also going to do some pledge tiers. Would you guys have any product? And they said, yeah, we can give you some video cards, we can give you some mice. And so you can pledge and actually get a brand new Razer Hex Naga mouse or an AMD 6870 video card, which is a very high-end video card. And those can be part of your pledges, and all the money goes towards the development of the game. We have T-shirts, we have posters, we have little USB gun towers.
I saw that.
We have an audio button now that it's kind of like a magic 8-ball where Fletcher gives you answers based on questions you ask him, of course, and we have some fun stuff in there. So it depends on pledging what you're able to and looking for the rewards that you get based on that.
Well, it sounds like fun. I can't wait for the new game to come out.
Yeah, we can't either.
And, so click the link below. It's in the description.
Please.
And check it out. And now remember what I told you at the beginning of this, that I not only, pledged for this, but they sent me a copy of the current game. And so it's a 2-for-1 bonus.
It's a new experiment, and we thought it was the right thing to do, is just make sure that everybody could be a part of it even before the Kickstarter closed.
Yeah, so I'm already playing, and the Kickstarter's still going. So, okay, see you there. Leave your comments, and we will, I'll be reading them. Maybe I'll even give you some feedback on them. So,
well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Jeff.
you very much.
Yeah, yeah. Hope to be playing the game in the future.
Absolutely.
Take care, everybody.